Welcome. We're cracking the code to handling conflict. And this session is Digging Deeper During Disagreements, where we'll focus on resolving conflicts from beginning to end.
Now, you already know the speaking skill called expressing yourself, and you also know the listening skill, listening with empathy, and you'll be using both of those skills as you resolve a conflict.
So turn in your workbooks to Digging Deeper During Disagreements.
Now, we want you to know that there are two parts to resolving problems, to resolving a conflict. Part one is having a couple talk. Having a couple talk, and that's where you'll be expressing all your feelings, concerns, and desires about the problem. And your partner will be listening with empathy to you, and vice versa. But you won't be talking about solutions yet when you have a couple talk.
Why no solutions? Because too often couples start a conflict discussion by each arguing for their point of view, for what they want. They take a stance and they dig in their heels. They're going to get their way.
So, for example, we had an issue over 30 years ago for our first Christmas. Where were we going to go for our first Christmas? So I informed Don, and it was about October, that I was making reservations to fly back east to be with my family for Christmas. And Don had the audacity to respond in a way I didn't expect.
I don't think so.
And I was like, well, wait a second. We are going there. I'm stuck out here on the West Coast. That's where we're heading.
Yeah, well, you're not alone in this, and there's a financial consideration, and I don't think so.
Well, we'll see. Could be separate Christmas vacations then. And so what we had done was immediately start with the two positions. I want to go back east, he wants to stay here. But if we had had a couple talk at that time, what I would have done is say, I want to talk to you about the vacation that we're going to take at Christmas, or where we would go for Christmas. And I want to tell you how I'm missing my family. And I have concerns about my mother being alone at Christmas. And this is my first Christmas away from my home, and I'm realizing I'm now committed to the West Coast. And so I'm going through a lot of feelings about that, and I'm really wishing we could go back east for Christmas.
Think I would have responded differently to that? Heck yeah, you bet.
And then Don would have been able to talk to me about what it meant to him to leave his family. He has a big extended family, and what it would have been like for him to leave his family for his first Christmas ever, not being with them. So approaching each other and having a couple talk like that would have opened us up to compromising and maybe coming up with different solutions instead of working against each other.
Where did we go for Christmas that first year?
We did go back east. Oh. We did. Then we flew my mother back to the West Coast for the remaining Christmases.
Yeah, we did, okay. So there are two notes. First, go deeper during your couple talk. Think of an iceberg. Most of an iceberg is underwater. I think it's 85 to 90% of the mass of an iceberg is underwater. You can't see it. In the same way, if you stay on the surface when you're discussing a problem and you move too quickly to a solution, your solution will not be satisfying, because it's only going to take into account that part that was on the surface, and not that maybe it's 85 or 90% that was not included in that solution. You won't fully understand your partner's concerns and desires about the issue, and you won't express all of your own. So those solutions won't work. Good chance you're going to be frustrated again, and probably not too far along from then, probably pretty soon. So take your time to go deeper in your dialogue.
And then sometimes a couple talk is just all that is needed. And the idea here is that some problems are solved just by understanding each other more deeply. So when you express your thoughts and feelings and concerns and desires and your partner's listening with empathy and you're both doing that, you understand yourselves in a deeper way, you understand each other in a deeper way, differences fade away, and that sometimes the differences that are there still don't bother you as much. I remember there was an example years ago when I approached Don about a conflict issue, and do you remember your response? Yeah. I approached you about a conflict issue, and you thought, oh, okay, this is
going to be a good one, because I know I'm clean on this one. This is her hang-up, it's not my fault. So sure, let's talk about it. I'm glad to talk about it.
So I started talking, but because he was able to listen with empathy to me and not be oppositional or have that kind of attitude, I was able to go deeper, and I was able to talk about things that were hurting me and things that I didn't realize until I had the couple talk, that, you know, things I was feeling until...
Well, what happened was I ended up in tears because I understood that something I was doing unintentionally was really hurting her, and I had no idea. And when she tried to tell me about it, I associated it with something intentional, and I knew I wasn't doing that, so I just blew it off and kept on doing it. So there was a lot of damage that I was doing, hurting her without meaning to, but because I didn't listen. And when I was in the couple talk, and my only job was to set aside those other points of view and just listen, then I was able to get it.
Right, so we didn't end up having to even move to that second part, which is about solutions. We just basically had a couple talk where we understood each other deeply enough to resolve the issue that way. So we wanted to point that out.
So if a solution is needed, then when both of you are ready, then you move to part 2, which is finding the win-win-win. And that'll be covered in the next session, and it's very practical. If there's a decision to be made, a new behavior for someone to undertake, need to create a solution, that's when we'll move to part 2.
Okay, now in your workbooks, turn to Steps for Digging Deeper During Disagreements. Think before you speak. And what are you to think about? Think about what's good about your partner's position, about your partner's point of view. And in your workbook, you will see a familiar chart. We've already used one of these in a previous session, and it's called A Good I See in Your Position.
We have 2 things for you to do. We're going to begin working on a minor problem topic. First, between the 2 of you, choose a minor problem topic. If you each brought a topic, choose one. And the topic needs to be big enough to be a real issue between you, a real conflict topic, but not so big that it has many layers of feeling around it.
In your workbook, you'll see that there's a list of common topics. They're difference topics. Things like minor annoyances, like should the toilet seat be up or down? Mm-hmm. It could be one is maybe more organized, the other is less organized. It could be an annoyance like being interrupted when you're doing something or watching something. So we have that list of common topics for you to choose from if you haven't yet chosen a topic. For me, a topic was when I'm watching something, or I'm on the computer, or I'm in the middle of reading, being interrupted. Because I have a hard time with my concentration the way it is. When it gets broken, then it's really hard to get back going again. And I'm already talking to him when I'm around the corner and I don't even know what he's doing. I just figure he's happy to hear what I have to say. So I had to learn that maybe I need to adjust myself a little. So agree on one topic. Then, in your own workbook, without your partner seeing, write the issue down in neutral terms. And you'll write it down in that box, a good I see in your position. And remember, if you can't find a good right now, you can write something you appreciate about your partner or you appreciate about the relationship itself. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to do those 2 things. Pick a topic and then write a good you see in your partner's position. Ready to go.
Go ahead and talk to your partner. Return back to the video. It's time to start again.
Okay, so now step 2 is make an appointment for a couple talk using a soft approach. In couple talk, when you approach your partner to agree on a time and place to schedule a couple talk, remember that's one of the steps of having a couple talk, we want you to use a soft approach. And it involves 2 things. One is don't blame. Speak from your own point of view and don't use those blaming words. Don't use those trigger words. Example is, I'd like to talk about something that concerns me, about how the chores are being done around the house. Now, isn't that a lot different than, I want to talk about how you're so lazy. And the second point is, don't push. Don't push. And what we mean by that is, it may not be the best time for your partner to stop and have a couple talk right then. So if you're one of those like me who wants to talk right then, be patient. So don't push your partner, just approach them to ask to schedule a time to have a couple talk.
To practice this softer way of approaching your partner to ask for a couple talk, we have 2 quick exercises. Practice 1 is called, You Spent How Much? This is Fluffy. And wives, you brought Fluffy with you into the marriage, the cutest little dog you can ever imagine. And she deserves good things, doesn't she? Husbands, Fluffy costs you a lot of money. Vet bills, groomers, and gourmet dog food. And you don't even like dogs. So here's the scenario, and this will be an exercise where you will practice a soft startup. And husbands, gentlemen, you're going to be the ones to practice first. Don't worry, they'll have an exercise after this where the ladies will have to craft a soft startup. The scenario is you just saw the credit card bill for Fluffy's day at the dog spa, and you're irritated, and you want to talk about this. She is sitting on the couch cuddling Fluffy, and she starts the dialogue by saying, "Honey, don't you love Fluffy's new bow?" So that's the exercise, and in a moment we'll have the ladies start that exercise by saying that line. Husbands, as you craft your soft startup, don't blame, don't push. You're not resolving the issue here, you're doing the request for a dialogue. You're doing a soft startup. So you'll ask for a time to talk. You'll tell her what the issue is in a reassuring way. All right? So men, you understand what to do? Soft startup. Ladies, turn toward your husband. You can leave your chairs where they're at, but just turn toward your husband. Stroke Fluffy because she's in your lap and she's doing beautiful. And say, honey, don't you like the new bow? Don't you like Fluffy's new bow? Ready, go.
Turn and talk to your partner.
All right, let me stop you. Fellas, I'd like to hear from the gentleman. What did you say? How did you put together a soft approach to bring up this topic to your wife? Lee.
I acknowledged just saying, oh, the bow looks really great. I saw the bill for the shop he went to. I was wondering if we could talk about that real quick.
Okay.
Great.
That was pretty good. Yeah, that was neutral, didn't attack,
Right.
didn't blame, didn't push. So let's flip it. And now, ladies, it's going to be your turn to create a soft approach. Here's the scenario. Husbands, you're picking your wife up to take her to her company party. She's probably going to be really happy that you took time to stop and have the car washed. Wives, your husband is late again for the umpteenth time. It means you're going to be late to the company party again. It's making you look bad to your boss and to others. You're angry and you want to schedule a couple talk to talk about it. Okay? So the scenario is that he's just arrived home and ready for you to join him in the car, and he starts the dialogue by saying, "Ready for the party? Hey, did you notice how nice the car looks?" And wives, your job is to ask for an appointment. No blaming, no pushing. All right? Take a minute to do that. Ready, go.
Go ahead and talk to your partner.
Okay, I got to pull you all back together. And ladies, I'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear, how did you make a soft approach to talk with your husband when you were so frustrated? Okay. Can I hear some examples? Sarah.
I had a similar issue. I said, I'm concerned about you being late, and he thought, well, you're not supposed to say you. So can I say you at all? Does an I statement include anything that you did?
Yeah.
Can it? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that wasn't an inappropriate way of saying it if I said, I'm concerned about you being late. Was that still
I think it
soft?
sounds perfect to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, we can't pretend it was somebody else who was late.
Okay.
So for instance, if Don is leaving his socks all over the floor and I'm frustrated about it, I can't say, oh, there's some socks over there that I'm frustrated about. I wonder what we'll do. And so I get to say you, but I don't use the judging and blaming words. So I say, I've noticed you've left your socks on the floor and I've been getting frustrated about it and I'd like to have a couple talk about it. And so it doesn't start with the you attack. We just describe what his behavior is without blaming. Okay. Yeah, great question. Okay.
Yeah. One more. Bobo.
When Callie said her concern, she actually used the words, I want to talk to you about something. And so I don't know if that is okay, but for personally, when she kind of leaves it vague like that, I start to think about all sorts of different things that could be wrong, and it starts to worry me, and it could put me in a bad state too, like getting defensive about a number of things.
So you'd like to hear from her how serious it is. I'd like to talk to you about something that's really a problem, or I'd like to talk with you about something that's not real serious, but a little bit bothering me.
I think that's part of it, but also I think specifically like about the timeliness or time management rather than just something in general.
Okay, yeah, so it sounds like you would like to have the topic named. And that actually is a really good thing to do, because otherwise your partner might be spinning in their mind about what could this be. There was a time I remember when we were dating and you said to me, I'd like to have a talk with you about something. And I was all excited about it. And I drove to your house. And do you remember what it was about?
No, huh?
Oh, it was about an old girlfriend that you had met up with again. And yes, so I learned when you say to me that you have something you want to talk to me about, do you notice what I ask for?
You want to know what it is.
Yeah, there no surprises.
Wow. Yeah. Until right now, I never associated those two events.
So he'll say to me, oh yeah, I got a letter from somebody and I want to know what it is, or there's something that's frustrating me, and I'm like that. I want to know exactly what it is.
It's worse than that. I like to do surprises with her. And so I'll say, oh, got something fun coming up later. And She won't like it. She'll make me tell her what it is. And now I understand that a lot better. I mean, that bad experience you had kind of has you open or vulnerable. It was 30 whatever years ago.
Yeah. So now we'd like you to turn in your workbook to practice the exercise, make an appointment using a soft approach. And what you'll do is practice a soft approach using the topic that you're going to discuss in this session. So you already have narrowed down to one topic, and the person who chose the conflict topic that you're going to discuss will create a soft approach. So remember, don't blame, don't use those trigger words, those judgmental words, and have an attitude of we'll get through this. And then also, don't push. Make this soft approach a request. Is now a good time? Now, of course, your partner's going to say yes because we're in this session and you're going to be discussing it. But include that so you get practice using that.
That's right. So you'll have a minute to ask for a couple talk. The one who picks the topic does the soft approach. Ready? Go.
Turn and talk to your partner.
Okay, now we'd like you to look at your workbook, and there's a question that we ask there. What if your partner used a soft approach the next time they had an issue they wanted to discuss with you? How would that change things? So just take a moment to write your answer to that in your workbook.
On your own, complete the quick debrief.
Okay, now we'd like you to talk to your partner. How did you respond to that question? Do you think the soft approach will help? Talk to your partner about it. We'll give you a minute for that. Go.
Turn and talk to your partner about this exercise.
We're now ready to have a couple talk on a minor problem.
So turn to your exercise, couple talk on a minor problem using prompts. And the purpose of this is to practice having a couple talk on your first conflict issue, and you will be using the prompts there to help you get started and go through the process in this very first experience. So follow the set of prompts and express yourself in something like 30-second chunks. Remember that your partner's doing a difficult job of listening, and they're going to want to summarize back with empathy. So just think about shorter statements, briefer amounts of time of expressing yourself. And if you're listening with empathy, if you're in that role, you can just do this little inch signal to your partner that you need to have a chance to summarize back with empathy what they had just expressed. So that's the way that you'll work that out. And the expressor, the one who will pick up the expression stick, is the person who picked the problem topic, okay? And their partner will be the listener. So to demonstrate this, we're going to first get an expression stick, and Don will be the expressor.
And for our demonstration, we're going to use a topic from the video you saw in the very, very first session with that couple who had a conflict about a credit card bill. So Alex and I will use that to be the topic that we model the process. But we want you to focus on the steps in the dialogue and the way that the expression stick is used. Okay? Alex, I'd like to talk about a concern I have about the credit card charge. But I also want to acknowledge first that I know you're really careful with money. You do a lot to watch out for our budget. I know you use coupons when you go to the grocery store, and I really appreciate that you do work on watching our expenses.
As Don, I want to talk to you about something that's a frustration, and it's the credit card bill. And I want to acknowledge that you do work hard to save money, Alex, and you clip coupons and you shop carefully. So I want to make sure that I start with that I appreciate that about you.
Yeah. And the way I see this issue is our budget is out of control. And we're really in a bad spot financially. We're not making ends meet every month.
As Don, I see this issue as something really important because we're not making our bills. It's out of control. So there's a real financial problem here.
And when I think about this, I feel overwhelmed. I feel pretty discouraged about where we're at.
As Don, the feelings I have are, feeling overwhelmed and discouraged that we could maybe even ever get out of this debt. So it feels kind of hopeless.
And a desire that goes with this for me is that I guess I'd really like to feel like we're on the same page, like we're working together to, row the same direction.
So as Don, a desire I have is to partner with you, to feel together on this, to work together on this issue so that we could come up with something that might work for us.
Yeah, you got it. Now I'd like to hear what you have to say.
So now we'll end that demonstration, but what you saw is us switching roles, so now it's my turn to be the expressor. And what we'd like you to do is follow the prompts in your workbook, and you'll just go step by step and remember to express in about 30-second chunks so that your partner will have a chance to listen with empathy to you more fully.
Okay, now it's your turn. When you use the prompts in your workbook, we'll signal at the halfway point. We'll signal when there's 1 minute left. The music will come up at the very end when it's time to come back to the group. So turn your chairs so you're facing each other knee to knee, and ready, go.
Turn your chairs so you're knee to knee with your partner and begin the exercise.
You're halfway done. If you haven't already done so, it's time to switch roles.
Start wrapping it up. There's 1 minute remaining. Turn back to the video. Don and Alex are getting ready to start.
Now we're right in the middle of the dialogue you're having about that. I'm sure we probably stopped you kind of in the middle of what you were doing, but we're going to come back to it.
At this point, what we wanted to do was teach you a helpful signal for use when you're in the middle of a couple talk and something goes off kilter, someone goes off track. So perhaps it's, could you get the expression stick?
Sure.
So perhaps Don is expressing and he's telling me about his point of view, and I don't say, and it's my job to be the listener, but I say, well, you know, I actually disagree with you, Don, and I don't like that idea. What can he do to get us back on track?
Because she didn't give me empathy. She started talking about her own point of view.
Well, instead of him saying, there you go again.
Forget this, man.
Right.
I tried talking to you.
So if I mess up on my role, if I don't listen with empathy and I start speaking from my own point of view, he can give me a quick signal to get me back on track.
Okay. We call it a coaching signal, and the one that we use, and we'd like you to use in the class as you're starting with, is just a simple upraised hand.
And it goes backwards for a reason, because if it goes forward, it doesn't feel very good to receive, right? Okay. So really, you have to make it go backwards. And so if he were to give me that, as I'm saying, well, you know, I disagree with you, Don. Oh, that's right. You have the stick. I'm the one who's supposed to be listening. As Don, the way I see it and the way I feel. And so we get right back on track. So we call it a coaching signal because you're just coaching each other to get back right into the skills and right into the the skillful way of expressing yourself or listening with empathy.
It's not I gotcha, you screwed up, like a cop. No, it's a gentle stop sign and with a backward motion like Alex described, and it's actually to preserve the relationship and preserve the dialogue and stay on track so that you don't go off one of those nasty patterns.
So if your partner gives you the signal, just check yourself quickly. Wait, what was I supposed to be doing? Do I have the stick anywhere in my hands? Okay, if not, I am the listener. And so was I listening with empathy and listening and summarizing back with empathy? And get back on track doing that if that was the problem. Or if you were the expressor and your partner gives you the signal, check yourself. Did you just say a trigger word? Maybe you need to do a redo on that. So it's a quick way to get back on track without anyone taking it off track into accusations or other negativity. And there's one more thing. If your partner gives you a signal and you didn't know what you did wrong, what your partner can do is very graciously explain what they think went wrong. So
I wanted you to give me empathy first, and then you'll have a turn to tell me what you think.
So there's an example of him giving me coaching on that.
So it's a quick nonverbal way to stay on track. The next exercise, going deeper, its purpose is to continue on with the couple talk that you had, go deeper in your dialogue, take more time with it, and practice switching roles as often as you can. We are hoping that in these dialogues you're offering to give your partner a turn to be the expressor, offering the expression stick, and we hope that there will be times where you ask non-verbally, as Alex has shown, I'd like to have a turn to be the expressor.
So in your workbook, we've provided some prompts to help you dig a little deeper on this topic that you're discussing and to get below the surface of the problem. So when you are the expressor, you can choose the prompts that seem relevant or useful to you in your workbook. And remember to express yourself in about 30-second chunks to then let your partner summarize back with empathy. So to begin this couple talk, or this part of the couple talk, a good way to begin is one of those prompts that's in your workbook. It says, what's important to me about this issue is, and name it. Name what was important to you about the issue. And then say because, and talk a little bit more. And then let your partner summarize back with empathy.
You don't have to use all those prompts or even any of them, but they're there for you if they fit in your dialogue, just to get you started. Give you a little help down the road. You start the sentence with the prompt and then go on and tell what's true for you. Right? So we'll give you several minutes to work on this. If you finish one problem, tackle another. Start on the other person's topic. And begin always with a good I see in your position. That's always going to be that way. All right? So we'll go ahead and start. Go ahead and turn your chairs facing each other knee to knee. We'll let you know when you're halfway, and then again when there's a minute left, and when the music comes up, that'll be the time to come back to the group. Ready, go.
Get knee to knee with each other and start the exercise.
You're halfway there. This is the final minute, so begin wrapping it up.
Time to return to the group. We're getting ready to start up again.
Go ahead and turn in your workbook and take a minute to answer the question, was this the first time you discussed this topic? If yes, answer the question next to that. If no, answer that question. Second, we'd like you to write some notes that you want to remember about your partner's point of view. Were there some things they told you that was important to them? Some feelings or concerns or desires? And write them down in the place provided, and this will help you in the next session. So take a few moments now to do both of those things.
Now take a moment to yourself and fill in the debrief section of your workbook. Turn back to the video. We're getting ready to start.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before, and this time I was able to really sympathize with his feelings about the topic, and I actually started to feel how he feels about it.
Yes.
I mean, his like emotions behind it. Like I started to feel those emotions to the conflict as well.
Nice, yeah. And other times you hadn't had that experience, even though you talked about it before. Yeah, good, good.
Yeah, that's empathy. That's what that listening with empathy will do, and that's what that I form of listening with empathy will do. It helps you really step into your partner's world enough to even begin to feel their feelings, so that's beautiful.
It makes your partner go, yes. Other comments? Thomas.
Yeah, I think going through the steps, it helped us have a slower conversation. But on the other hand, it was difficult because as I was trying to listen to her with empathy, I wanted to ask questions because I wanted details, but I wasn't sure exactly when or how I should ask those questions. So that was rather difficult for me.
Yeah, yeah. You're feeling those questions kind of well up inside you, and it's getting in the way of being able to pay attention to what she's saying.
Exactly. Yeah. It was very difficult for me to try and continue to listen with empathy when I had questions that I wanted answers to before we continue going on with our conversation.
Yep.
So
That's really common. And the encouragement is to do your best to set those aside inwardly. Tell yourself, I'll have a chance to ask those questions when it's my turn to be the expressor, but right now it's getting in the way, so I'm going to push those away and not deal with them yet, and I'll refocus in on just listening to what she has to say.
my fear in that, though, is that if she progresses the conversation too much, I'll forget those questions, and that could possibly be a problem later because I never got clarity on those questions, and she might have progressed the conversation down the road to a point where I lost memory of those questions that I had.
Well, here's something you can do about that. Just tell yourself, if it's important, those questions will come back to my mind. And that really can happen. So trust that you can set the questions aside, and the ones that were really important to you, as you take the expression stick and start talking about your own point of view, they'll bubble to the surface and they'll come back to you. So try to trust that. That will help you set yourself aside as you're in the role of the listener. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And another point is, it's not the last time you're ever talking to her. You'll think of it the next day or the next week, and you can bring it up and say, hey, we had that talk. There's something I forgot to ask you. I wanted to. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we'd like to ask you to just talk to your partner for a couple of minutes about what this overall experience was like. Remember, you started off with the prompts that led you through the beginning of this couple talk, and then we let you go deeper. So go ahead and talk about the overall experience with your partner now.
Turn and talk to your partner about how this exercise was for you. Turn back to the video. It's time to start again.
Now let's turn to cracking the code to handling conflict by digging deeper during disagreements. Some important things to remember from this session. Number one, think about what's good about your partner's position. And if you can't find something there, something good about your relationship or about your partner. Number two, use a soft approach to ask for an appointment to have a couple talk. And cracking the code in everyday life. Dialogues go deeper gradually. This happens when both partners feel safe. So when you have a complaint or you're frustrated with your partner, remember those couple talk values. Remember them all the time. Be open and honest. Be caring and compassionate. And be committed to each other and to using the skills.
And finally, if there's some leftover hurt or negative feelings that you have after a couple talk, or if your couple talk gets interrupted because you have to get to work or life gets in the way, use those reconnection statements from the previous session. And there are things that will help you reconnect and help get through those negative feelings or those negative leftover feelings.
Now we'd like for you to do that old favorite exercise, partner appreciations. That's where each of you will give an appreciation, something you admire, something special about your partner, something they've done for you recently, and you'll tell them, and they will summarize back to you with empathy using the you form. Then they'll give you an appreciation, and you'll do the same. So to do that exercise, we'll have you turn your chairs so that you're facing each other knee to knee. So go ahead and turn your chairs and give your partners an appreciation.
Turn knee to knee with your partner and start the exercise.
You're halfway done. If you haven't done so already, it's time to switch roles. Turn back to the video. Don and Alex are getting ready to start.
Now remember, there's two parts to resolving a problem. And you have just completed the first part, which is digging deeper during disagreements.
Next session will be finding the win-win-win. Very practical steps to finding solutions to what you talked about in this class. Even if you think you've identified a solution, there's lots to learn next session. Learning about implementing that solution, or maybe even finding something better. You might be surprised at what you find. So we'll see you next session, finding the win-win-win.